أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Last month it was time to be and discuss the life of Imam Shafi'i, and seeing this is a Shafi'i Masjid, it was a time of excitement. However, today is time for us to become Hanbalis, inshallah. Every Imam you listen to, you become so inspired and you feel like becoming like them. And these were all of the Imams, they were all great. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate their status. Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi was not only an Imam of Fiqh and Hadith. Imam Ahmed was not only an Imam of Fiqh and Hadith. Imam Ahmed, he faced such trials, such tribulations that the Imams of the past didn't face. Yes, they also faced trials, they also faced tribulations. But the nature of the trials of Imam Ahmad was slightly different. Imam Ahmad faced trials, or he was the first of the Imams to face an unorthodox government. In the trials of the previous Imams, the entire government wasn't corrupt. You got people, individuals that were corrupt, or you got the leader that was corrupt. But the whole aqidah of the whole government to be unorthodox, to be away from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi is the first to actually encounter something like this, and we'll be discussing this inshallah towards the end of today's program. Imam Ahmad rahmatullah alayhi, he didn't ignore this, he stood up, he challenged this, and he stood up on behalf of you and me. Regardless of which madhab you follow, you could be a Hanafi, you could be a Maliki, you could be a Shafi'i, you could follow no madhab, regardless. But Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi, everyone, he has done every one of us a favor. And every single person who's from the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah has a connection with Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi. What is the title of Imam Abu Hanifa? What's he known as? Imam al-A'zam. We call him the greatest Imam, Imam al-A'zam. You know the title of Imam Ahmad? Anybody know the title of Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal? Anybody know what was his title? Imam Abu Hanifa was known as Imam al-A'zam. What do we call Imam Ahmad? Anybody know? Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal was known as Imam Ahli Sunnati wal Jama'ah. The Imam of Ahlu Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Why? Because if it wasn't for him, possibly there may not have been any Ahlu Sunnah wal Jama'ah anymore in the world. He, rahmatullah alayhi, defended the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, thus becoming Imam Ahli Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And there are many of those who praised Imam Ahmad. Amongst them, one of the great hadith scholars, Ali ibn al-Madini. Ali ibn al-Madini was a tabi'i, a great scholar of hadith. He says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave victory to this religion of Islam through two individuals, there is no third. He said Allah gave victory to this religion through two individuals, there is no third that comes anywhere near these two. And then he says, in terms of what they did on those particular days. The first one he says, Abu Bakr Yawmul Ridda. And number two, Ahmad Yawmul Mihna. He says Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala anhu on the day of Ridda. What is Ridda? Upon the demise of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, people in multitudes started leaving the fold of Islam. Apostasy became common. That we're no longer going to remain Muslims. We have nothing to do with this religion. There are people who gave up giving zakat. And they said, we've got nothing to do with it. The messenger has gone, we're going as well. The steadfastness showed by Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, the way he shone on that day, nobody can replace this. And this gave victory to the Muslims once again. And he solved the issue. He got rid of them. And he says the second one, وَأَحْمَدْ يَوْمُ الْمِحْنَةِ. Mihna, you're going to hear this word Mihna. Mihna is referring to the trial and the tribulation faced by Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal later on in his life, when he faced this trial where the government was trying to push this agenda and this aqidah of the Quran of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being a creation. We'll go into that later on, inshaAllah. So this is what he says. Ishaq ibn Rahway. Ishaq ibn Rahway is the Shaykh of Bukhari. So you've got Imam Bukhari, everybody knows Bukhari. But who's the Shaykh of Bukhari? One of the Shaykhs of Bukhari is Ishaq ibn Rahway. Ishaq ibn Rahway says regarding Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he says he is Allah's proof on planet earth. He is the proof of Allah on planet earth. He says if it wasn't for the sacrifices of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, there would be no Islam today. Meaning there will be no orthodox Islam left. There will be a very deviant ideology of Islam, of which these people were trying to promote. But the orthodox mainstream Islam that has remained, this is because of the sacrifices of Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayh. Another testimony, Imam al-Muzani. Who remembers who is Imam al-Muzani? We mentioned him last time. Anybody? Imam al-Muzani? No? Imam al-Muzani was one of the greatest Shafi'i scholars. Okay, we spoke about him last time. He wrote a book on the Khulafa. We know the Khulafa, the Caliphs. And he specifically mentioned the days and their sacrifices and their contributions. And he spoke about, on one occasion, he writes, the time when these people really shone in their lives. So he speaks, Abu Bakr, Yawmur Ridda. The Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu really shone on the day of apostasy, when he took care of those people who left Islam and he brought them all back, or then he had them seen to. The Sahaba said, Abu Bakr, calm down, the Prophet ﷺ has just passed away and we've got other issues. He says, no. He ﷺ left us on something I'm not going to give up. I'm going to ensure, if people are saying that they're not going to give zakat, if one individual denies to give zakat, even for a single string or a rope, I'm going to fight him until he gives the zakat. So this was Abu Bakr. He says, Umar yawm as-Saqifa. And Umar radiallahu shone on the day of Saqifa. Saqifa Banu Sa'ida. Those of you who've been to Medina Munawwara, if you think about Masjid Nabwi, the back end of Masjid Nabwi, where majority of the people stay nowadays, on one end, on one corner, we've got the Movenpick Hotel, Anwar al-Madina. Many of you may have even stayed there. If not, you've heard about it. So not very far from there, just across from there, there's a garden known as Saqifa Banu Sa'ida. And this is where the appointment of the Khilafah of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was done. And Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, on this day, the day of Saqifa, in this area where the gathering took place, and he was appointed as the Khalifa, Umar radiallahu anhu made that decision and everybody agreed with it. And then he goes on to say, Wa Uthman yawmud dar. And Uthman really shone on the day of the time he was besieged in his house. We all know it wasn't one day, it was multiple days, but it's referring to that moment and that time when again he was steadfast, and we've spoke about this over 3 programs in great detail regarding the first fitna of the Ummah. And then he goes on to say, Wa Ali yawm Siffin. And during the battle of Siffin, Ali radiallahu ta'ala stood his ground, and that's the time when he really shone. Now he's talking about the Khulafa, and alongside the Khulafa he says, Wa Ahmad yawmul Mihna. He mentions Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal in the line of the Khulafa, although he wasn't a Khalifa. And he says he really shone on the day and the time when he was tested with the trial of the fitna of Khalqul Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the understanding. He goes on to say, a sign to show that a person loves the Sunnah is that he loves Imam Ahmad. If somebody loves Imam Ahmad, that means you love the Sunnah. And if somebody despises Imam Ahmad, it shows that this person does not love the Sunnah. When was he born? Imam Ahmad was born in the year 164 after Hijrah. So after the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ, 164, he's born in Baghdad. Now, when was Imam Shafi'i born? Anybody remember? Imam Shafi'i? My Shafi'i brethren? Somebody had put their hand up. You remember? Very good, mashallah. Are you a Shafi'i by any chance? No, look, he's not even a Shafi'i and he's remembered. Okay? So, a lesson for you, brother Shafi'is, that you should know about your Imam. The Hanafis shouldn't laugh, because if I ask you when Imam Abu Hanifa was born, you won't be able to answer that as well. So, Imam Shafi'i was born in 150. And Imam Ahmad is born in 164. So, how much younger is he? So, he's 14 years younger than Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayh. And remember, Baghdad at that time was the capital of Islam. It was a center of turmoil. It was a center of politics. It was a center of philosophical ideas. Everything that happened was happening in Baghdad. And this is when Imam Ahmad was born, at a time of turmoil. What's his name? His name is Ahmad Ibn Muhammad Ibn Hanbal Ibn Hilal al-Shaybani. Now you might be thinking, we call him Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal. Now this is very common, very, very common, that if there was someone famous, someone special, someone great in your lineage, instead of you saying you are the son of so-and-so, you refer to that individual. It's very, very common. Like Imam Shafi'i, okay, like Shafi'i wasn't even his surname. It wasn't even his father or his grandfather. It was someone in his lineage who was a great person known as Shafi', and this is why we call him Imam al-Shafi'i. Whereas the original name of Imam al-Shafi'i, again, question to the Shafi'is, what was his name? Muhammad what? Muhammad ibn Idris. Well, you know that much at least. Muhammad ibn Idris. Muhammad ibn Idris. So Imam Ahmad, his name really was Ahmad ibn Muhammad, and then his grandfather was called Hanbal. And that's where the name Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal comes from. So Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Hanbal ibn Hilal al-Shaybani. You've heard of Shaybani before. Where have we heard of Shaybani before? The student of Imam Abu Hanifa, one of the main students of Imam Abu Hanifa, Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. So he was also Shaybani. And we'll speak about this in a moment. Shayban was considered the strongest tribe of the Arabs in terms of nobility, in terms of hierarchy, in terms of their language. They were known as one of the best. So if you're from Shayban, you were the best of the Arabs. And Imam Ahmad was from amongst these people. Shayban was known as being very influential individuals. They created the most amount of scholars, thinkers, intellectuals, etc. And the Imam Ahmad, however, although being from not just the Arabs, but the best of Arabs, he didn't take pride in this. He didn't even ever mention it to anyone. He didn't say, oh, do you know where I'm from? Do you know which family I'm from? My background. He didn't. One day, one of his students found out that his teacher, Imam Ahmad, is from Shayban. So he approached him and said, oh, my teacher, oh, Ustad, I've heard that you're from Shayban. Is this true? So Imam Ahmad replied by saying, Kulluna masakeen. He said, so what? We're all miskeen in the eyes of Allah. We're miskeen, we're nothing. How is that relevant? Whether I'm from Shayban or not, how is that relevant? So this was Imam Ahmad, the way he approached this. His grandfather was Hanbal, and he was from the Umayyad period, appointed as one of the Amirs. The father of Imam Ahmad, Ahmad ibn Muhammad, so Muhammad, he actually passed away when Imam Ahmad was only 2 or 3 years old. Again, a similar pattern to the previous Imams. So the mother is a single mother. So once again, we have a single mother, and she is the one, through all her efforts, brought him up, took him to the places of study, and we will see. The mother of Imam Ahmad, from a very young age, would find the circles of knowledge, would take him to the masjid, and she would be the first one there. And she would ensure that he goes inside, and then she would wait outside. And she would listen to the lessons, and then when all the men have left, so she would go early in the morning, before Fajr, drop him off, and he would stay there throughout the day. She would remain outside, and she would wait. And she would also listen to the lessons. And then in the evening after Isha, once all the men had left, she would go inside, go and collect him and bring him back. And this was the routine. Whenever she heard about another great scholar of Hadith, of Fiqh, or any kind of Islamic knowledge, she would take him. And she would attend the gatherings with him. And she basically dedicated herself for the upbringing and knowledge of Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal. And Imam Ahmad says himself that my mother would wash my clothes, she would wash my turban, and many a times I would return to my room, and when I would open my clothes, I would find little notes there. She would leave little notes for me. And these were notes in which it encouraged me. There were very positive comments in there. You're going to become something one day. You're going to become a big person. You're doing really well. Keep it up. These kind of really positive notes, she would keep them folded. And whenever I opened my clothes, I would find these little notes in there, encouraging and positive messages regarding myself. My mother was very attached to me. She said to me that, look, Ahmad, one thing I'm going to request you, please never travel by sea. She knew that he's going to travel for the sake of knowledge, and she encouraged him. But she said, don't travel by sea, because I fear that you might drown one day, and I won't be able to bear the separation. On the land, I know you're going to be safe, but on the sea, you don't know what's going to happen. And regarding traveling by sea, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is actually a hadith in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned that a person should not take a journey on the ocean except if you're going for Hajj or Umrah, or you're going in the path of Allah. فَإِنَّ تَحْتَ الْبَحْرِ نَارًا. There's a hadith that mentions that beneath the ocean is fire. Again, the scholars have interpreted it in different ways. Nevertheless, over here, he didn't travel by sea until he reached the age of 40. And then afterwards, after his mother had gone, and he had to travel to other places. Another thing Imam Ahmad did, but he didn't endorse and he didn't inform other people to do. He didn't recommend it to anybody else, and he said, look, this is not from the Sunnah, and I'm making this very clear as well now. It's not from the Sunnah. I had my reasons for doing this. Imam Ahmad didn't get married until his mother passed away. And he knew that if he got married, of course, he wouldn't be able to give the time to his mother that he would be able to give after getting married, because he'd have other responsibilities and duties. Because of Imam Ahmad's mother giving him so much time and dedicating everything she had, basically she would be with him morning till evening, drop him off, wait there the whole day and only come back. That was her life. So he felt it right that he has to repay her. So he got married at the age of 40 after his mother passed away, and he would specify and say, this is not the Sunnah, this is not, because he was well known for his knowledge and many other things, he would wake up in the morning to find on his doorsteps 8 to 10 proposals every day. But he would refuse and say, not now, the time will come when I get married. Anyway, at the age of 40, he did get married. He married a woman called Aisha bintul Fadl. Aisha bintul Fadl is the first wife of Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayh, and he spent 30 years with her. Although polygamy was very, very common at that time, Imam Ahmad remained with her for approximately 30 years without marrying another woman. And from this woman, Imam Ahmad was blessed with his eldest son, whose name is Saleh, and then who became a scholar later on. And then the second son, who is more well known as Abdullah. And this is why Imam Ahmad is known as Abi Abdullah, the father of Abdullah. 30 years they stayed together. Imam Ahmad used to say that for these 30 years that we lived together, never ever did we ever argue on anything. Once he was telling his students, we had a very beautiful understanding, and said, do you know why? Because when we got married, the first night when we met each other, we performed 2 rakat salah. And after making salam, my wife, she called me, we sat down, and she delivered to me a little khutbah, a little message. It was like an exchange of vows. So she said to me that, I'm going to be loyal to you, I'm going to be nice to you, I'm going to be kind to you. And she said everything she had to say. Imam Ahmad thought this was the only time in my life I actually desired to give a khutbah. So I gave a khutbah back to her as well. So we had this exchange of vows. And throughout these 30 years, we never argued. And then after he told his students, he goes, actually, yeah, we argued once actually. And then he goes, it was my fault, it wasn't her fault. So this was Imam Ahmad. 30 years they spent together. And Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayh, after the passing of this wife, he married another woman called Rayhana. From this woman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with another child called Abdullah. Then he married a woman called Husn, and from Husn he was blessed with a daughter called Zainab, and then twins called Hassan and Hussein, but unfortunately they passed away in infancy. And then Allah blessed him with another child, he named him Hassan, another son named him Muhammad. And 50 days before he passed away, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with a son called Sa'id. And this time, remember, he was well over 70 years old. So 50 days, just before he passed away, he was blessed with another son whose name was Sa'id. And later on, he became one of the Qadi and the judges of Kufa as well. At the age of 10, Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal memorizes the Holy Quran. And he would attend a place called the Diwan. The Diwan in Baghdad was an area where all the thinkers, the influential people, the political people, everybody who had some sort of agenda would gather and they would talk. So he would go there at this very young age and he would just listen. That's all he'd do. And this really helped him to develop his mind. He'd just listen to what everyone's got to say. And he would see that how people exchange, how people would debate and fight and argue and share their ideas. And he learned a lot from there. Now, the issue with Imam Ahmad was he was very poor. As we saw with some of the previous Imams as well. Very poor. Did not have any source of income. But one thing he did have, he had very beautiful handwriting. His handwriting was really good. So the only thing he could do to earn an income was write people letters. At that time, you never got like wedding cards and all these other kind of fancy cards. So people, when they wanted a nice message being sent to somebody, something nice being written or a document prepared, they would come to Imam Ahmad, who was very young at the time, and they would say, look, I want you to write this out. So they'd give him a copy and he'd write it out, and this was his income. This kept him going, and this is how he sort of started his early life. One of the uncles of Imam Ahmad was actually someone who worked for the Khalifa. Not only did he work, he was actually an informant for the Khalifa. So once he came to Imam Ahmad and he said, I've got this government document which I want you to write for me. So Imam Ahmad wrote it and he read like what he was writing. Once he completed it, he took it and he crumbled the whole thing into pieces. He crumpled it and he put it into shreds and he threw it away. And his uncle said, what are you doing? He says, this is a government document. And from a young age you could see that he didn't accept oppression. He didn't bow down to the government. And that's one thing you will see throughout his life. Just like Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayh, that when he saw wrong, he said it was wrong. He stood up, he stood his ground. And his uncle like put his hands up as well and said, okay, I understand, but that was a bit harsh. He says, no, I'm not going to help oppression. There is no way I'm going to help oppression. If the government is doing dhulm, I don't want to be part of it by writing a letter for them. In the year 179, Imam Malik rahmatullah alayh passes away. And this is the very year that Imam Ahmad dedicates himself to Hadith. We spoke previously, one Imam passes away, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent another. Imam Malik, the great scholar of Hadith, passes away. And it's at this time when Imam Ahmad, who's only 15 years old at the time, he now decides to dedicate his life to the Hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Amongst his first teachers is a man called Hushaym ibn Bashir. He was actually one of the teachers of Imam Malik. He was one of the teachers of Ibn Shihab Zuhri. He was a teacher of Sufyan al-Thawri. Now these are great individuals. And so he goes and stays with him for about 4 or 5 years. And from him he memorized and learned 3,000 ahadith. This is at the age of 15. He goes to him and he learns 3,000 ahadith. He says regarding his teacher, I noticed my teacher, he did a lot of tasbih. He was a person of tasbih. All the time you'd be saying Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, Allah, all the time. This one thing I found, he says regarding my ustaz, a lot of tasbih. And he says, I was in awe of him. Now imagine, Imam Ahmad's gone to him when, how old is Imam Ahmad? 15. And he went to Hushaym when Hushaym, just before he passed away. So Hushaym is like an elderly, old sheikh. And you've got this young little kid who's only 15 years old. He says, I was in awe of him. For 4 to 5 years, I just went to him. I listened to the hadith. I didn't dare ask a question. He says, in my entire 4 or 5 years, I asked only 2 questions. That's it. You can imagine how the interaction was. Then at the age of 19, he says that he went to his second teacher, who was very influential upon him. Anybody know who this teacher was? This teacher was Imam Abu Yusuf. Who's Imam Abu Yusuf? Not just a student of Imam Abu Hanifa, the greatest student of Imam Abu Hanifa. The greatest student of Imam Abu Hanifa is Imam Abu Yusuf. Imam Abu Yusuf is now one of the most important and most influential people in the life of Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal. And this is where we find it's very interesting how the Imams and the Fiqh are all intertwined and they're all linked. So this is his first influence, powerful influence. And this is why you will find in the Masail and the rulings of economics and politics especially, you will find the Hanafi madhab and the Hanbali madhab are very similar. Maybe not in other areas, But in economics and politics, you will find the rulings you find in the Hanbali madhab are very, very similar to the Hanafi school of thought. Now, from the year 186 to the year 206, Imam Ahmad went further. Now, with Imam Abu Yusuf, he didn't stay with him too long, maybe a couple of years max, and then he decided to travel. And he traveled extensively. He went to Basra, he went to Makkah, he went to Medina, he went to Yemen, he went to Kufa, he went to Asham, and he was too poor to afford a camel or a horse. So how did he go to all of these places? By foot. He walked. He walked to all of these places from Baghdad. He walked. He says, I performed Hajj 5 times. 3 of them he walked. Walked from where? From Iraq to Makkah. Walking. 3 of these Hajj, he says, I performed walking. He didn't have a penny. He says on one of these occasions, one of the Hajj journeys, he says, I had 30 dirham. That's it. And that's what I used for my food. And the other journeys, he didn't even have that as well. He says, many a times I'd be traveling, walking, and I'd get lost. Now imagine if someone set off from, we go up the road and we get lost. Okay, even though we've got navigation as well, and we still get lost. Okay, he's traveling by foot from Iraq, and he's going where? To Makkah. He says, many a times I'd get lost. So I'd ask somebody, can you show me the way to Makkah? And then people would come out and they say, yeah, go this way, go that way. And like this, after so long, I would reach Makkah al-Mukarramah. When you reach these places, one of the other great teachers he benefited from was a great scholar of hadith, is Sufyan ibn Uyayna. Sufyan ibn Uyayna, again, he's a giant in the field of hadith. From his students were Sufyan al-Thawri, and of course people regarded Sufyan ibn Uyayna greater than Imam Shafi'i as well. And he's from amongst the teachers of Imam al-Bukhari. And another teacher of Imam Bukhari is Ishaq ibn Rahway. Ishaq ibn Rahway was also present in the gathering of Sufyan ibn Uyayna when Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal rahmatullahi reached there. And one day Ishaq ibn Rahway noticed Imam Ahmad to be missing from the gathering of Sufyan ibn Uyayna, a great gathering of hadith. Where is Imam Ahmad? How come he's not attending the lesson today? He arrived late. So after the lesson, they asked him, how come you came late today? He goes, I'll show you, come with me. So after the lesson, he took Ishaq ibn Rahway. So I'm going to show you where I went. And he took him. I remember this, he had met Imam Shafi'i in Makkah. So he took him to meet Imam Shafi'i. And he says, this is who I came to see. Now Imam Shafi'i was very young at this time. 14 years older than Imam Ahmad. And Ishaq ibn Rahway was a great sheikh and a great scholar of hadith. So Ishaq ibn Rahway says, woe to you, O Ahmad. You left Ishaq ibn Rahway to come to this young boy, Imam al-Shafi'i. Why have you left that great gathering of hadith and you've come here? So Imam Ahmad said, you don't understand. If you miss a hadith from Ishaq ibn Rahway, maybe you'll find that hadith from somebody else. It's possible. You might find a chain somewhere else. But the understanding and the fiqh Allah has given to this man, you will not find the second of. Imam Shafi'i has been given the understanding, yes, the hadith is important and we seek the hadith. But if you miss one narration from Ishaq ibn Rahway, somebody else you will find will have that narration who's narrated to who Ishaq ibn Rahway has given to. You can maybe take it from him. But the understanding of fiqh given to this man, I've not found anywhere else. This is why I'm going to dedicate myself to Imam al-Shafi'i. So he dedicated himself to Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi. You know, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal, he went to those who he thought he will benefit from without waiting for the validation of others. He didn't have to wait just because, when you were growing up and your parents say, okay, don't ever go to that masjid, or don't ever go to this particular sheikh, without understanding why. Okay, he didn't wait for the validation of others. He saw he's going to benefit. It's going to be better for his deen. It's going to make him closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He went and he benefited. And he actually narrates 20 hadith from Imam al-Shafi'i. Imam Ahmad narrates 20 hadith. This is an answer for those people who say that the imams of fiqh were not imams of hadith as well. They were also imams of hadith as well. He narrates, and Hafiz ibn Kathir. Ibn Kathir, we know him as a Shafi'i, and we know him for his tafsir, his commentary of the Quran. He says, one of the most beautiful hadith narrations I've ever come across in my life is this. He says, Imam Ahmad narrates a hadith from Imam Shafi'i, who narrates a hadith from Imam Malik. So you've got three of the Imams. So Ahmad heard a hadith from Malik, who heard a hadith from Shafi'i. Sorry, Imam Ahmad narrates from Imam Shafi'i, who heard from Imam Malik, who heard from Ibn Shihab Zuhri, who heard from Abdul Rahman ibn Ka'ab, who heard from Ka'b ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu, who heard from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the beautiful hadith is, the soul of a believer, the souls of the believers are preserved inside green birds in paradise, and they roam around and they fly until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call for the hour to take place. Meaning in the barzakh, in the intervening period, if somebody passes away and you're a believer and you're a pious person, this is the hadith Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentions, that these birds are hanging on the trees of Jannah and the soul of the believers are inside these green birds. So without a doubt, the best student of Imam Shafi'i was Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal. Those of you who remember from last month, we said Imam Shafi'i left Baghdad when he noticed that there's going to be a great fitna and trial. Where did he go to? He went to Egypt. And after going to Egypt, we discussed how he changed a lot of his views as well. When he was going, what did the people say? He says, how can you leave us? What did he say? He says, I'm leaving someone behind. And I'm so happy with him, with his knowledge, with his fiqh, with his hadith, with his taqwa. I've got nothing to worry about for the people of Baghdad. I'm leaving behind someone who's great, and I don't need to worry. And he left behind who? He left behind Imam Ahmad. Imam Shafi'i, the testimony of Imam Shafi'i, meaning the teacher, regarding his student. He says Imam Ahmad has excelled in 8 areas. He's an Imam in 8 areas. He says Imam Ahmad is an Imam of Hadith. He's an Imam of Fiqh. He's an Imam of Arabic. He's an Imam of the Quran. He's an Imam of poverty. Poverty, meaning when you're in a state of poverty and you don't have anything, how to live in such a way that you don't complain about Allah. He mastered this. Imam of poverty. Imam of abstinence, meaning he had no desire for anything of the world. Zuhad, asceticism. And the Imam of taqwa, and he concludes by saying he's also the Imam of Sunnah as well. 8 areas he says he's an Imam in. He mastered. Imam Shafi'i gave an advice, or you could call it a request to Imam Ahmad. Now this is the teacher leaving Baghdad, and he says, "Oh Ahmad, after I've gone to Baghdad, if you come across a hadith which you've not heard from me, or you know that I'm not aware of, please write to me so that I can practice on it. Please write it to me so I can implement it and I can practice on it." So there's a very interesting incident. Imam Ahmad would always request Imam Shafi'i to come to his house and be a guest at his house, and he would always refuse. On one occasion, Imam Shafi'i accepted the invitation of Imam Ahmad to come to his house to spend the night to eat some food. So now you can imagine how happy Imam Ahmad was. And remember, Imam Ahmad was so influenced by Imam Shafi'i that he would always speak about him to his family, to his wife, to his children. And he always, Shafi'i is this, and Shafi'i is this, and Shafi'i is this. And so now the whole household is excited. They're preparing the food, and they're getting the rooms ready. And, you know, when someone like this comes and you've heard so much about, you want to like observe everything of them. Because you've heard so much about them, it's as if you already know them, or you've got this perception of them. It's only until you see someone you think, all right, okay, is that all? Anyway, so he'll build their hopes up. And when eventually the time came when Imam Shafi'i arrived to the house of Imam Ahmad, you know, they put out the cloth and they put out many types of foods. So they sat down to eat. Now, remember, you've heard so much. Now, the children of Imam Ahmad were very observant, especially his daughter who was Zainab. And she was also a faqih as well. So they were very observant, wanted to see, our father's been mentioning so much about this great scholar. Let's see how, you know. And in those days, what would happen is, people would actually send their children to individuals, spend thousands of dinar and darahim just to learn adab and mannerism. People would spend thousands, send their children in the company of individuals who are well-mannered people, just so that they can learn manners. And you know, when people used to see Imam Ahmad, they used to actually ask, that, who did you go to? Who did you go to learn manners, to learn etiquette, to learn respect, to learn social conduct? And they said, nobody. And they would say, well, we spend thousands on our children, and still we've not seen the development that we see in you. Who was it? He said, no, it was just my mother. I stayed with my mother. I didn't go anywhere else. We were too poor to pay a penny to somebody for development. So they would observe people, and people would bring their children, and they would say, just look and learn from these people. People would come to the gatherings of these scholars. Many of them were students of knowledge. Some would come just to learn from their adab. Just sit and look and observe how these people live their life. Learn life skills. Learn life skills. Something which our youth need a lot nowadays. All of us need. So the food is placed. Imam Shafi'i begins to eat. And as you know, al-Mu'minin Sayyida Aisha radiallahu anha says the first bid'ah, the first innovation which crept up in the ummah after the demise of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is eating to one's fill. You know, at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it wasn't common that people ate and ate and ate until, you know, it was like right over here. Okay, Ramadan's coming, Tarawih time, we all know what happens. Okay, and then let's not go into that. So it was known at that time, people didn't eat as much. They were known as, especially amongst these great scholars, as you know, they led a very simple life. But when Imam Shafi'i came, they were observing, like he started to eat, and he ate, and he ate, and he ate, and he ate. Don't worry, Cockneys, like, they eat a lot as well. So maybe they've taken this story. So he ate, and he ate, and he ate. And the family members were like thinking, like, what kind of an imam is this? We've heard so much about him. Okay, and he's just eating away, and he's like finishing all the dishes that are there. They've prepared so much, and he's eating away anyhow. So that was the first encounter. After he'd finished, we said, like, are you really finished now? He goes, yeah, I'm finished now. They took him to his room and showed him that this is where you'll be spending the night. And they placed some water. Of course, at that time, you didn't have taps in the houses for wudu, etc. And they left a mat as well for the prayer. So, again, remember, everyone's on their tiptoes, like there's a guest in the house, a great imam, let's see what he does, and they're like observing every move he has. So he goes into his room, and throughout the night, right, listening out, what could he be doing, and they notice the whole night passes by, and he doesn't pray tahajjud, and that was very, very abnormal. Like even the people on the streets would pray tahajjud at certain times. It was very, very normal to perform tahajjud in the middle of the night. And this person who's a great imam, great scholar, our father's been going on about him, and he didn't even wake up in the middle of the night. So that was the second thing that she found very peculiar, and the other family members as well. And the third thing is, obviously, if he wasn't praying tahajjud, he must have been sleeping away. In the morning, they requested him to lead the Fajr prayer. So he came out from his room and went straight to the musalla and said, Allahu Akbar. No wudu. No wudu as well. The water was still there. So now, after he'd gone and everything had finished, the daughter of Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad, Zainab, came to her father and he said, what kind of sheikh is this? La salata, wa la dhikra, wa la wirda. Nothing at all. We failed him. Have you seen the way he ate? No tahajjud in the night. He doesn't even do wudu. Like even the kids do wudu nowadays. Nothing at all. So then Imam Shafi'i decided to address this to, Imam Ahmad decided to address this to Imam Shafi'i. So Imam Shafi'i responded by saying, the fact of the matter is, when I came into your house and I saw all the food that was prepared, what I could see in the food was nur. Because I knew that your income is pure and halal. And it's very difficult to find this kind of food anywhere else. If I would have gone elsewhere, I would have had to eat. I thought, let me make the most of it. So I took as much as I could. And then when I went to sleep, I was lying down. Because of the food I'd eaten, it was so nurani. Some issues of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ came to my mind. So I started thinking. So although I was trying to fall asleep, these masail, these rulings of the deen, and this hadith was going through my mind, and I was trying to work something out. And By the time I figured it out, it was time for Fajr. So I got up, I hadn't slept, my wudu was still intact, and I came to the masjid and I led the salah. So this was an incident related regarding Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayh coming to the house of Imam Ahmad. Anyhow, Imam Shafi'i on many occasions he tried giving money to Imam Ahmad, but Imam Ahmad always refused. He didn't take it. He refused it. He wouldn't take it, and he said, "Okay, fine. You don't want to take money. I'll get you a job." I said, "Yeah, that's fine. Okay, you get me a job. I'm not going to take money off you." Imam Shafi'i actually went to the governor, and he went to the Khalifa actually, and he got Imam Ahmad a job as being the governor of Yemen. Now this is a very high post. And he came to him and he said, "I've got you a job." He said, "Yeah, brilliant, I'll accept it." Because what is it? It's to be the governor of Yemen. You know, you'll be able to settle down and you can carry on your work of hadith and people will come and benefit from you. Imam Ahmad, as soon as he heard this, he says, "There is no way I'm taking this post. I'm not taking this post. I'm not going to get involved with the government. I'm not going to take any jobs like this." And Imam Shafi'i would insist, and he would mention it again and again. Every time you would see him, he would say, "Please take the job, please take the job," until a time came when Imam Ahmad on one occasion said to Imam Shafi'i, "Oh Imam, as much respect I have for you, and I'd love to stay with you, if you mention this job one more time, you won't see me ever again." And from then onwards, Imam Shafi'i stopped mentioning regarding this post, because this was his way. This was his way, this was his ideology, this is the way he dealt with things, and he didn't want to get involved in politics in this matter. Anyhow, Imam Ahmad, on one occasion he went for Hajj. Now the intention for going for Hajj was two. One was to go for Hajj, of course, and the other was there was a scholar from Yemen who he wanted to see. But he didn't want to travel to Makkah to see him. He wanted to meet him in Makkah, take permission from him, and then separately make a journey to Yemen. Because he believed that if he went to Makkah, then this is like his intention is being corrupted here. He's not going for the ilm, for the knowledge. He's making life easy for himself. Because the scholar Abdul Razak is going to be coming here anyway. So he thought, I'm going to go there. I'll take his permission and separately I'll go and meet him, because you should go to knowledge, knowledge shouldn't come to you. And this is again one of his ideas and the way he saw things. So again, he had no money. How is he going to travel? He decided to carry people's luggage. Now this is the Imam of the time, Imam Ahli Sunnah. What is he doing? He's become a porter. So he's set up, and what he's doing is he carries people's luggage. And this is how he earned a bit of income, so that he himself could travel and make it for Hajj. When he reached Makkatul Mukarramah, Yahya ibn Ma'in, who was a great hadith scholar as well, he knew of the intention of Imam Ahmad. So before Imam Ahmad could go and see Abdul Razzaq San'ani of Yemen, Yahya ibn Ma'in went to him and said that Imam Ahmad has also come and he would like to benefit from you. And of course it's difficult for him to make the journey all the way to Yemen. So is it possible that he can ask you the questions of hadith he wants to ask you here? Now Abdul Razzaq al-San'ani was going to return, but he said, "Okay, I can delay my journey. No problem. If it's for him, he wants to come and benefit from me, by all means, he can come and I'll give him some time. I'll give him some time." What happens now is Imam Yahya ibn Ma'in comes to Imam Ahmad and he said, "You know, I've done you a favor." He said, "What did you do?" He said, "I went to Abdul Razzaq al-San'ani and I've told him that you want to see him. I've saved you a journey. You know, you can go like indirect flight or multiple flights, and when you get like a direct flight. So he goes, I've made your life so much easier for you." He says, "What have you done?" He says, "Well, I've gone to him and I've requested that you want to see him, and he's going to give you some time so you can ask him the questions that you wanted to." He said, "You know what? You've ruined my intention. My intention wasn't this. I wanted to come here only for the Hajj, and I was going to ask him permission, and I was going to make a separate journey because I believe you should travel for the sake of knowledge, not wait for knowledge to come to you." And today we've got it all on Google. Anything happens, we go straight on there. We don't even check whether it's right, it's wrong, who it's coming from. And this is the way this has become. Whereas the scholars of the past, just for one hadith, they would travel miles, even if they couldn't afford it. And this is how they became who they became. Anyhow, so he chose not to go to Abdul Razzaq al-San'ani here, and he later on he went to Yemen. after Abdul Razak San'ani had returned to Yemen, Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi traveled to Yemen. It took him a few months to get there, and he went to the door in the house of Abdul Razak San'ani. He was about to knock, and people said to him, "What are you doing?" They didn't recognize he was Imam Ahmad. He says, "I'm knocking on the door." He says, "You don't knock on this door. This door does not get knocked." He goes, "Why?" He goes, "Well, this scholar is a very great scholar, and we don't like to disturb him. When he comes out, he comes out. He's got haiba. There's an awe that he has. He has a demeanor, and people don't generally knock on his door. They wait for him to come out of respect for him." So he said, "Okay, fine." They didn't know who he was, so he sat down on the doorstep, waiting for Abdul Razak As-San'ani to come out. And when he came out, he says, "I ran to him, and I ran to him. First of all, he didn't recognize me, and then I said, 'I'm Ahmad Ibn Hanbal.' And as soon as he realized, he says he became very, very embarrassed, and he became humbled. That you actually came all the way. I thought you were saying it. You actually came all the way to see me, to learn from me. I should be learning from you. I should be learning from you. You've come to learn from me." Anyhow, he learned from him, he studied by him, and then he returned to Baghdad. Maybe 3-4 days he stayed with him, and throughout the day, until it became very dark, he continued to study by him, and then he returned all the way back to Baghdad. And after this incident, whenever Abdul Razak San'ani would mention the name of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he would cry. He would cry, remembering the humbling experience. Imam Ahmad didn't eat for those 3 days. Those 3 days he didn't eat. He continued to learn and benefit from Abdul Razak San'ani. In Makkah al-Mukarramah, when Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi came to study by Sufyan ibn Uyayna, one of the classes Imam Ahmad was missing again. He wasn't to be found. So some of the students after the class went to look for him. They found him in his room. He was sitting covered in a blanket. He was sitting covered in a blanket. So the students came to him and said, "You didn't attend the lesson of Hadith. What's up? Well, what's wrong?" He says, "I went for a bath, and when I came out, I found someone had stolen my clothes. Someone's gone off with my clothes," like we hear about Musa alayhi salam in the Quran, the incident that happened. "So I was bathing, someone's taken my clothes, so I'm sitting here, I don't have anything to wear, I've covered myself with a blanket." So the student said, "Well, we'll give you some money." "Fine, you don't have to take it from me. It's a loan." He said, "No, I refuse. I don't take a loan." This was again another principle of Imam Ahmad. He never took a loan of anybody. So he said, I don't do loans." So Imam Ahmad said, "Well, they didn't know what to do now. How can we help you? We're trying to help you, but then..." So he said, "Okay, I can do something for you. I can do something for you." And now the reason I'm mentioning this is, after Imam Ahmad had passed away, many people used to actually, one of the things that people had of Imam Ahmad were his letters. Remember, he had good handwriting. So like people would, at that time people didn't realize how great of a person he was. But afterwards, people would pull out these letters. They would say, "Well, I've got one of the letters." So this is one of those incidents where somebody once pulled out a letter and he said, "There's a very interesting story to this." And he told the people the story, and this is the story. So Imam Ahmad said, "Well, I can do something for you." He said, "What can you do for me?" He said, "I can write you something. I've got good handwriting. I can write you something, and then you can give me some money for it." He said, "Okay." So the student said, I sat down and I told him what to write. I dictated, and Imam Ahmad begins to write. He wrote me a letter, and I gave him 1 dinar. He says, "Look, this is 1 dinar. Go and buy yourself some clothes." Imam Ahmad goes, "Well, how do you expect me to go and buy clothes in a blanket? I'm naked inside." He says, "Okay, give me the dinar. I'll go and get the clothes, and I'll give you the clothes." So he says, "I went to the market, I bought a piece of cloth, I bought it back. Imam Ahmad ripped it into 2 pieces. He wore one at the top, one at the bottom, and he came back and he joined the circle of the hadith of Sufyan ibn Uyayna." Now Ibn al-Jawzi rahmatullah alayh is one of those. Imam Ahmad's biography is very, very long. Okay, so we'll probably be sitting here till Fajr maybe, inshallah. No. Ibn al-Jawzi has written 700 pages on the biography of Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayh. There's a lot of detail in his biography. We're only mentioning some parts of it without going into too much detail. He had approximately 415 teachers altogether. He traveled extensively. At the age of 50, he became the official Mufti of Baghdad. And he became very, very well known by this time. On one of his journeys, he traveled to Asham. When he traveled to Asham, again a very interesting incident. When he got to Asham, now Imam Ahmad, another principle of his was, if he ever traveled anywhere, Again, he was a great Imam, but when he went to a place where people didn't know him, he never announced his arrival. He wouldn't let people know, right, the great Imam is on his way. Okay, roll down the red carpet or open the doors for me. No, nothing like this. Nothing at all. Very simple, very humble. And he arrived in the place, nobody would know who he was, and he didn't really mention anything to anybody. So on one occasion, when he came to Sham, the first night he came, he arrived into the masjid, he performed the Isha Salah, and after the Isha Salah, people started to go. So Imam Ahmad thought, well, I've got nowhere to stay, nobody knows me here, I don't know what to do, I'll just sleep in the masjid, I'll just stay in the masjid. So Imam Ahmad rahmatullah alayh, he put his stuff out, and he was resting in the masjid. One by one, people start to go, and the lights start going off. Okay, you've noticed this is a normal thing throughout the world in all of the masjids. Okay, and then you hear the rattling of the keys, all these different hints the caretaker tries to give to you. Get out now, I need to go home, I'm hungry as well. Okay, so you get all these hints, lights start going off, and then the doors start locking, and then they start banging on the doors, announcing the toilet, anybody in there? Okay, all these kind of things had been done, and there was nobody left besides Imam Ahmad now. So the caretaker comes to him, he says, what are you doing? He goes, I want to stay here. He goes, no, nobody stays in the masjid, you need to go. So Imam Ahmad could have easily said, do you know who I am? Okay, I'm Imam Ahmad, but he didn't do this. He argued with him like any of us would argue. Okay, and he said, no, I want to stay here, I'm a traveler, I'm a stranger, I don't know anybody here, I've come from out, and you need to let me stay. He says, no, nobody stays in the masjid. Okay, you can't stay in the masjid, I'm going to lock the door. And Imam Ahmad argued with him. You know what he did? He took the belongings of Imam Ahmad, he threw them out of the masjid, and he grabbed Imam Ahmad with the feet, and he dragged him out of the masjid and threw him out onto the road. Caretaker. Okay, maybe I think the caretakers of all masjids have been just appointed to be really lethal. Okay, otherwise, you know, they'd be filled with travelers. Anyhow, so this is like a norm throughout the world, isn't it? Wherever you go. Anyway, sometimes you need people like that. So otherwise, every night you'd find people. Anybody who's had an argument with their wife would probably come and end up sleeping in the masjid. There was once an incident. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He exchanged some words with his wife Fatima radiallahu anha, the daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was a bit of exchange of heated words, and then he got a bit angry and he left the house. So where did he go? He went straight to the masjid, and he was lying down in the sand, thinking, oh, like what's happened, and trying to keep himself calm. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he came to the house, he realized, okay, something's happened over here, and he came to the masjid and he woke him up and he said, Qum ya Aba Turab. Anyway, so it's better to come to the masjid than go anywhere else. Let's put it that way. So he was thrown out of the masjid. He was thrown out of the masjid. So he says when he was thrown out of the masjid, now across the masjid, just across the masjid, there was a bakery. And there was a baker. And most of you will know the way bakers work is they work like throughout the late night, get all their work done, and they prepare their bread or whatever they're going to do early in the morning. So by the time the shops open, the first thing that arrives is fresh bread, and then they're done for the day. And that's how bakers work. So this baker, he was open, he was busy in his bakery. So what happened was, when Imam Ahmad was dragged out of the masjid by this caretaker, and all his belongings were thrown out onto the road, the baker saw it happening from across the road. So the baker came, the caretaker went, the baker came, and he said, like, what's happened? He said, well, I'm a traveler, I tried to stay in the masjid, but he's just kicked me out, as you can see. Because don't worry, you can stay in my bakery. You can spend the night here. So Imam Ahmad really appreciated it. He went into the bakery, took his belongings, and he spent the night there. And Imam Ahmad himself says that I was really fascinated by this baker. As he was kneading the dough and doing what he was doing, he goes, throughout the night, all I could hear was Subhanallah, Walhamdulillah, Wa la ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar. And he says, there was no one else there. And continuously, throughout, Subhanallah, Walhamdulillah, Wa la ilaha illallah, Allah. He was, I was so fascinated by this baker, a baker, so strongly linked and connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I asked him, how long have you been doing this? I've observed you throughout the night. And you've been doing this all night. You've been Subhanallah, Walhamdulillah, Wa la ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar. How long have you been doing this? He said, it's been years. It's been a very, very long time. Very long time I've been busy with the dhikr. So Imam Ahmad asked him a very interesting question. He said to him, well, have you seen the benefit of this? You've been doing something, I think it's very special what you're doing. It's very unique. Have you seen the benefit of this? You've done so much dhikr throughout the night. Do you see how Allah has rewarded? He goes, yes. He says, how have you seen? How has it manifested in your life? He says, well, the effect of this dhikr I've seen in my life is, whenever I make any dua, Allah answers my prayer. Wow. Every dua I've made until today, Allah has answered my prayer. All the time, whenever I've made a dua, Allah answered my dua. Except for one. Except for one. He says, what's that one dua? What did he ask him? What's that one dua? He says, the one dua which has not been answered till today is, I asked Allah, oh Allah, please show me the face of Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal. This is the one dua. The power of dhikr. The power of the remembrance of Allah. He says, please, oh Allah, I want to see the face of Imam Ahmad. Everybody knew Imam Ahmad. And what happens? He says, oh Baker, this is in front of you, Ahmad ibn Hanbal. If it wasn't for your dua, maybe I would have slept in the masjid. It was your dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dragged me by my feet, the acceptance of your dua, to come into your shop. This is how Allah accepts your dua. Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi is in front of him. And on this note, we should also become people of dhikr. People who remember Allah. How easy it is. How is it difficult? Does it cost anything? Does it take any time? Okay, we've got this new trend now of these fidget spinners. Okay, everyone's got it. Youngsters, elders, brothers, sisters. I actually saw a couple here. Whilst I'm talking, I can see some people. Okay, they've got it there. Okay, fidget spinners. And what is it? All of these things, we're not giving a fatwa of it being haram. Nothing of the sort. Okay, fine. I mean, as an amusement and everything, it's all in its place. But each time something like this comes out, the idea is to take you further and away from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's lahwa. Imagine that time, okay, you used and you had a tasbih in your hands. Okay, invest in one of these. It probably cost you less than £1. Okay, invest in one of these. Keep it with you. Just keep it on your finger. Okay, and that's all. You don't need to do anything else. And just whenever you get a free moment, say any name of Allah you want and click. And just keep going. If you're driving, okay, keep doing it. Okay, once you're walking to school or back, just keep doing it. If you're dropping your kids off on the way back, just keep busy. Constantly remaining in dhikr. And if not dhikr, Durood Sharif, very, very beneficial. Are we all making this intention, inshallah? It's very, very beneficial. And tell other people about it. It's very simple. It's not difficult at all. When we travel on our journeys, sometimes we use a particular coach company. And we go into, either if it's going to Heathrow or Manchester Airport or Luton Airport, this is a 2-hour journey. One of the drivers, mashallah, I've noticed throughout the journey there, throughout the journey back, 2 hours there, 2 hours back, he has one of these. He's driving his bus, and throughout the way he's making the dhikr of Allah. Making the dhikr of Allah. It's not difficult. Alhamdulillah, last week we were in Palestine in Masjid al-Aqsa. We had a group with us. And we shared with everybody the importance of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in particular Durood Sharif. And we ascribed everybody should read at least 1,000 durood a day. Alhamdulillah, when you make the intention, everybody was able to do it. And once they've come back, we've decided that every Jumu'ah we'll try and read even more. MashaAllah, one brother was able to recite 10,000 durood last Friday. He's sitting in this gathering, I'm not going to mention the name. But I'm only mentioning this to inspire and encourage. There'll be others who are doing probably much more, but this is just to give us an idea of how easy it is to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So look at the benefit. He says the benefit of this staying and remaining in dhikr is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered every one of my du'as. Anyhow, Imam Razi rahmatullah alayhi mentions, he says, I accompanied Imam Ahmad. And he says, Wallahi, he memorized 1 million hadith. He goes, I'm saying this because I went through every single one of these hadith with him. I studied them with him. 1 million hadith. When we say 1 million, we're talking about all the types of hadith. Authentic, non-authentic, hasan, and da'if, and mawdu, all of them. Every single one, He goes, I went through all of them with him. This is why we find the Musnad of Imam Ahmad is probably the largest collection of hadith available. We have a book of hadith of Imam Ahmad, which is the largest available collection and compilation of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Imam Ahmad didn't only compile a book on hadith. Another compilation of Imam Ahmad is a book called Kitab al-Zuhad, the book of abstinence. This was a book on tasawwuf. So Imam Ahmad was an imam of hadith, he was an imam of fiqh, and he was also an imam of tazkiyah and tasawwuf as well at the same time. And you find this. And he had the largest halaqah. There were different halaqahs of different scholars in Baghdad. The largest circle of knowledge was of Imam Ahmad. At least 5,000 students would attend the halaqah of Imam Ahmad rahmatullah alayh. And it says that there was only 500 of the students who would sit there, who were actually taking notes. What were the rest doing? 4,500 would actually sit to take spiritual benefit from the company of Imam Ahmad. From which we learn that these scholars were not only scholars of words, but they were scholars of spirituality as well. That this is another thing which they promoted as well. Imam Ahmad, he loved the poor. He was poor himself, he loved the poor. And Imam Ahmad, what he would do, he would bring the poor and he would seat them at the front in his gatherings. He would honor them. Whenever there was a walima in his family, an aqiqah in his family, or anyone in his family would be getting married, or there was any function, he would ensure that he first invited the poor before the rich. Because the Prophet ﷺ has said, there is no goodness in that event or that function in which only the rich people are called and the poor are not invited. So he would ensure the first people, and then when it came to feeding, he fed the poor before the ulama, he fed the poor even before the princes, even before the scholars. He would first feed the poor, and then he would go with the rest of the individuals. One of the sayings of Imam Ahmad, he would always say, I wish, he goes, I know this is not possible, but I wish I could go to a place where there is nobody and I could just stay there alone, worshipping Allah. This was the desire of Imam Ahmad. What about his worship? Was he just a man of words, or was he a man of action as well? The worship of Imam Ahmad, besides the fara'id and the sunan, every night Imam Ahmad would perform 300 rak'at of nafil. 300 rak'ah every night. And he continued this until he became ill, and then he halved it, he would perform 150 rak'ah. Now according to the madhab of Imam Ahmad and some other scholars as well, the night in terms of qiyamul layl can be done from Maghrib. Generally we say it's from Isha onwards you can pray tahajjud. In the madhab of Imam Ahmad you can pray from Maghrib onwards. So he would start after Maghrib, pray between Maghrib and Isha, and then continue after Isha. 300 rak'ah every single night. And you know, he used to have a list of people to make dua for. He used to keep a list. We're very fake, unfortunately. You know, how many times a day I say, people actually say to you, make dua for me, and you say, yeah, inshallah. Yeah, inshallah, yeah, I will. Do we ever remember to make dua for them? And then we say it's become a custom. Okay, you go somewhere, you leave, oh, make dua for me, make dua for me, make dua for me. Okay, Imam Ahmad wasn't a person of custom. If anyone ever asked him, make dua for me, he'd say, hang on, and he would write it down. And then he would add it to that list. And every night, his children say that he would take out this list. And on this list, there were 6 people who always remained. There were 6 people he always made dua for. At the top of the list was Imam Shafi'i. Like Imam Abu Hanifa says, every time I lifted my hands, I always made dua for my teacher Hammad. Imam Ahmad, every time he says, I lift my hands to make dua, the first person I pray for is Imam Shafi'i. So there were 6 people on that list that always remained. And then afterwards, whoever had requested for dua, their names were written, and he would keep this. And if he couldn't write it, he'd ask one of his children or anybody who was with him to take a note of it, and then they would go and add it into his dua list. And then he would take up this list and he would make dua. A man came to him once and said, Imam Ahmad, my mom has become paralyzed, she can no longer walk, she can't move, please make dua for her. Imam Ahmad became a little bit annoyed. And I said, it's your mom, your dua is more accepted than mine, you're praying for your mom, you should make the dua. And her dua will be accepted even more because she's sick. And the Prophet ﷺ said that dua of the sick person is accepted. So this person got a bit disheartened and he left from there. And after a couple of days, he went to see his mom. So when he got to the house, he knocked on the door. his mom came down and opened the door. And he was shocked. He goes, whoa, like, thought you're paralyzed. So she actually came to open the door for her son, and he was shocked that how can you walk? How can you walk? He came back to Imam Ahmad to see what's going on. Imam Ahmad wasn't there, his son Saleh was there. And Saleh said that what happened was, as soon as you left, my father, he made wudu, he prayed 2 rak'at salah, and he continued making dua for her. Although he told you what he told you, he didn't intend not to make dua for her. He was just trying to encourage that you also need to make dua as well. You can't just go around to people, dua karna, dua karna, dua karna, then not make dua yourself. If you're not going to make dua for your own, many of us do this. Unfortunately, many of us do this. We have this habit of going here and there to everywhere, okay? Giving a few pounds, make dua, make dua, make dua. You've never made dua for yourself, for your own situation. So he says he made dua, and they looked at the timing, and the timing of the dua actually coincided with the shifa and the paralysis of the mother being removed, and she was cured, alhamdulillah, through this dua. The taqwa of Imam Ahmad, the scholars have mentioned, if it wasn't for the taqwa of Imam Ahmad rahmatullah alayh, the concept of staying away from doubtful things would have died from the ummah. He kept this alive. He kept this alive. Also, Imam Ahmad did not hold grudges, even against his enemies. He was a person with a very, very clean heart. People told him, curse them. He said, no. They've done what they've done. That's it. It's finished. There was a man who came to Imam Ahmad and said, oh Imam, I've been backbiting you a lot. I've said a lot of bad things about you, but I've come to you now to ask for your forgiveness. Will you forgive me? Imam Ahmad said, I'll forgive you on one condition. He said, okay, right, you've got conditions now for forgiveness. Yeah, the condition is that you never do it ever again. He says, okay, I promise I'll never do it ever again. Okay, I've forgiven you. The son of Imam Ahmad said, oh father, why is it that you stipulated a condition? You could have just forgiven him, but you said that never do it again and I'll forgive you. He says, the reason is that I didn't want that brother to commit a sin. That's all. For him. He didn't care if people spoke bad about him. He says, I don't want him to commit a sin. This is why I made him make this promise. Now we come to the end of the life of Imam Ahmad and the trial, the Mihna, which we spoke about at the beginning. What is the trial? What is the Mihna? And now, the trial all started during the period when the Khalifa Mamun al-Rashid came into power. Who was Mamun al-Rashid? Who was his father? Harun al-Rashid. Have you heard about Harun al-Rashid before? Was he good or bad? Very good, mashallah. Harun al-Rashid was a very good Khalifa. And he did many, many good things. Of course, he was a human being. There may have been some lapses here and there. But overall, he was a very, very good, noble, pious Khalifa. His son Mamun wasn't. And he was very problematic. What happened was, we know Imam Shafi'i left in the year 199. Where did he leave? He left Baghdad because he could see now the uprising and he could see a change and a shift in the policy, and he left for Iraq. Imam Ahmad actually saw 8 different Abbasid Caliphs. He actually lived through that period. One after the other, he saw all of them, 8 of them. And this problem actually started much before the Abbasid Caliphs. In the time of the Umayyads, it actually started there. There was a person by the name of Ja'ad ibn Dirham. He was from the Umayyad period. He started this idea. The idea he started was, the ideology he had was, Allah doesn't speak. Na'udhu billah. He started this idea saying, Allah doesn't speak. What he wanted to do, he wanted to negate the sifat and the attributes of Allah. In the attributes of Allah, of speaking, of hearing, etc. He wanted to, he tried to abolish the whole idea of the fact that Allah speaks. So he says, Allah doesn't speak. So do you know what that means? That would mean, as a result of this, their belief was that the Quran is not Allah's spoken word. Allah made it, Allah created it. And then that means what they would have to do, that all of the hadith which speak about Jibreel coming down, they reject all of those. So you don't believe in the idea and the concept of Jibreel bringing the words of the Quran, and then the Prophet ﷺ hearing it and him repeating it, Iqra bismi. None of that. They reject all of that. So this was the concept of this man called Ja'ad ibn Dirham. Now Hisham ibn Abdul Malik, the son of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he actually got him executed. And he thought, right, that's the end of that. That was a big problem that arose. He wasn't so big at the time because no one really gave it too much fame, and he got him executed. Anyhow, his students still remained and continued to work secretly until one of his students who arose during the Abbasid period was Jaham ibn Safwan. Jaham ibn Safwan. He brought it back. This is why this group of people are normally known as Jahamiyya. Jahamiyya. Anyhow, he denied the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Ahmad wrote many refutations against this man, and other scholars did as well. They spoke up against it. Harun al-Rashid sent for his execution. That get this man executed. He's a problem, he's a troublemaker, and what he's saying is tantamount to disbelief. He's a deviant, he's taking people away from Islam. It's kufr what he's saying. Get him executed. However, the man, the Jaham ibn Safwan went into hiding, and Harun al-Rashid passed away. After Harun al-Rashid, who took over? Amin al-Rashid. Amin al-Rashid wasn't very sort of strong. He was like his father, pious, noble, but he didn't last very long, and he also passed away. Who came after this? Mamun al-Rashid. When Mamun al-Rashid came, this man, he came out. The man came out. And Mamun al-Rashid actually got to see him. He caught him, he arrested him. And the man said, well, give me a trial, give me an opportunity to speak to you. So this man, he spoke to Mamun al-Rashid, and he polluted the mind of Mamun al-Rashid until he convinced him. He convinced him. This is why it's dangerous to listen even to the ideologies of those who have current and deviant beliefs. It's best to stay away. You don't know when that switch could happen in your mind, and there are many, many incidents, stories. Time doesn't allow us to go into that now. Mamun al-Rashid, his mind was polluted, and he was now convinced. Not only this, he came across another scholar as well, from another deviant group, which was discussed before. We don't have time to go into the details now. They are known as the Mu'tazila. They have similar beliefs as well. And again, this man, his name was Ahmad Ibn Du'at. He was a scholar of a deviant group called the Mu'tazila, Ahmad Ibn Du'at. So Mamun al-Rashid again became fond of Ahmad Ibn Du'at, and he gave him a place in his palace, and everyone in Baghdad knew what's going on. They knew that Mamun al-Rashid has had his mind polluted, and his mind has become corrupt. Remember, he's not announced it yet. It's not public yet. But they knew that something is going on until a time came and he came out with it in public. And he said that I believe, na'udhu billahi, he disregarded any of the sifat of Allah. He says Allah doesn't speak, and the Quran is a creation and it's not part of Allah. He says Quran is makhluk. Allah created it, he didn't speak it. Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi, he continued to refute and speak up against this. Mamun went to the next step. Every single masjid, he got it inscribed in the masjids, on the gates of the masjid, Kalamullahi makhluk. He got it inscribed everywhere. He says, he said, all the guards, go to every masjid, and I want everybody to have this aqidah, this belief, that Allah doesn't speak, and that the fact that Quran isn't the word of Allah, and it's a creation. And then he said, he called his soldiers and his guards, and he says, go to all the judges, go to all the governors, go to all the imams, go to all the ulama, and get them to confess to this belief. And anybody who doesn't speak and doesn't agree to say that the Quran is makhluk, bring them here. I Mamun al-Rashid, have my sword ready, I will kill them myself. Great fitna this was, a massive fitna. What happens? The guards started coming out. Now you imagine every single scholar, every imam. There wasn't just, Imam Ahmad wasn't the only scholar. There were hundreds of scholars in Baghdad at the time, who were all great. Maybe not as great as Imam Ahmad, but they were great pioneers. Now imagine if all of them got killed. And Mamun al-Rashid was serious about what he was going to do. So amongst the scholar group, there was a message that started going round, and they started quoting a verse of the Quran, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, that don't kill yourself. Okay, so one way of killing yourself is committing suicide, which is of course haram in Islam. However, they interpreted it like this, that if you don't do what the governor is asking us to do, what's going to happen? You're going to get killed. And as a result of this, are there going to be any scholars remaining? Is there going to be any correct Islam remaining? All the scholars will go, and these deviants will take over, and then deviants will spread throughout the world. Remember, Baghdad was the capital of Islam at the time. So amongst the scholars, they had this understanding that, look, when the guards come with the tongue, we're going to say what they're telling us. We don't want to. Many of them, or all of them, or most of them, didn't agree with the idea. Of course they didn't. But to save their life and to save the work that they were doing, with their tongues they said it. In their hearts they didn't believe it. Besides two people. Imagine how great this fitna was. Every single scholar at that time gave in. And they said it. Because it was either that or you face the sword. And that would mean a lot of Islam would totally go and then deviance would spread. And there were only two students that didn't. From amongst how many ulama? 700 ulama. There were two scholars. One was Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal and the other one was Muhammad Ibn Nuh. Two scholars didn't agree to it. Everybody else, they uttered the words and then inside their hearts, of course, they had the correct belief and they carried on doing their work. Now, before we go further, I'm going to mention something to you. That Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi, when he left Baghdad and he went to Egypt, he left Imam Ahmad. Did he take anybody with him? Do you remember? He took two students with him. One of them was Rabi ibn Sulaiman. He took two students with him. One of the students is Rabi ibn Sulaiman. He took Rabi ibn Sulaiman with him. Now imagine traveling all the way from Baghdad, all the way to Egypt. Yeah, do you think it'll be tiring? Of course it'll be tiring. So they've traveled all the way from Baghdad. They've arrived to Egypt. As soon as they arrived to Egypt, Imam Shafi'i says to his student Rabi ibn Sulaiman, he says, I've got a letter for Imam Ahmad. Can you go and give it to him, please? Now, they've arrived in Egypt. They've come all the way. Now, he's being asked by his teacher to go all the way back to Baghdad just to hand this letter to Imam Ahmad. And he says, do not come back until Imam Ahmad gives you the answer. So I want you to take it, hand it over to him, wait for his answer and bring me his answer. Rabi ibn Sulaiman couldn't say no. He was his teacher at the end of the day. And he went. When he arrives in Baghdad, it was Fajr time. He says, I performed the Fajr Salah. And the fitna this time was in its initial stages. And after Fajr, he says, I saw Imam Ahmad. I gave him the letter. Imam Ahmad said to me that, have you read it? He goes, no. I've traveled. Look, the seal is still on there. I've not read it. He goes, okay. Imam Ahmad broke the seal and he opened the letter. Rabi ibn Sulaiman says, I was watching as he was reading the letter. The color of his face began to change. And then tears started pouring down. And then he started to cry. And he wept. And the sounds became louder and louder and louder. And I tried to calm him down. I sat him down. As he sat down, he put his hands on his chest. And he was pressing his chest. I said to him, what's up? What's wrong? What's the matter? What's the issue? Imam Ahmad says that Imam Shafi'i has written something in this letter which is making me cry. He says, what has he wrote? He's written that Imam Shafi'i himself says that he saw Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the dream. And he says, O Shafi'i, write a letter to Imam Ahmad and give him my salam. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is saying, O Shafi'i, write a letter to Imam Ahmad and give my salam to Imam Ahmad. And then tell him that, O Ahmad, you will be tested. You will be tested to say that the Quran is a creation. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not respond to them. Do not respond to them, Allah will elevate you. He says, this is the message. This is the message. Imam Ahmad says, O Rabi ibn Sulaiman, go back to Imam Shafi'i and tell him, I will not give in and return my salam to him, but please request him to make dua for me. And he goes back to Imam Shafi'i and he informs him. Anyhow, the guards of Mamun al-Rashid came to Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayh, and they said to him, what do you say in regards to the Quran? He said, Kalamullahi ghayru makhluq. The kalam of Allah, the word of Allah, Quran is not a creation. It's Allah's word, it's part of Allah. Allah did not create it. It's come out from, it's part of Allah, Allah's spoken word. They said to him, you know what Mamun will do to you if you say this? Do you know what Mamun's going to do to you? Imam Ahmad replied by saying, I'm more concerned what Allah will do to me if I say what you're telling me to say. What Mamun will do to me, that's secondary. What will Allah do to me if I was to utter the words you're trying to make me utter? The guards chained him up and they spat on his face and they cursed him. They dragged him. And on the way he saw another scholar. He thought he was alone. He was the only person who stood up to this. He saw another scholar, Muhammad Ibn Nuh. Again he refused and he says, no, it's not a creation, it's part of Allah's word. But unfortunately what happened, Muhammad Ibn Nuh, as he was being dragged to the palace of Ma'mun al-Rashid, he passed away on the way. So now the only one man standing, defending the whole of the ummah against this great trial was Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayh. Now people were consoling him. He's saying that as I was being dragged in the streets, taken to the palace of Ma'mun al-Rashid, you know, there were Bedouins on the way. They were telling me, be patient. Everybody else has given in. You don't give in. We rely on you. The guards would say to me that Ma'mun is waiting for you with his sword. He has taken a qasam and an oath that if Imam Ahmad does not say the words I want him to say, I'm going to kill him with my own hands. And Imam Ahmad said, I'm not going to give in. There is no way I'm going to give in. At that time, Imam Ahmad, whilst being dragged, he made a dua to Allah that, oh Allah, I don't want to see the face of Ma'mun. That night, Ma'mun Rashid died. And Imam Ahmad, by the time he was brought to the palace, Ma'mun al-Rashid had already died. What happens now? Ma'mun al-Rashid has gone. But before he died, he gave a will to his son Mu'tasim Billah. And he gave him a will and he said, you need to carry on this fitna. Don't stop it. Now the thing is, Ma'mun al-Rashid was a little bit, he was intellectual. So he came to, many a times it's these intellectual people that become deviant as well. The thing with Mu'tasim was he wasn't intellectual. He was just brutal, he was wild, and he was a nutcase. So he took that will and he said, yes, I'm going to enforce this. And he carried on. And he appointed again the same scholar, Ahmad ibn Du'at, was a Mu'tazili, as one of his advisors. And at that time he left. He decided not to kill Imam Ahmad then. He goes, let him rot in prison. This was his motto. Let him rot in prison. So he put him in prison in Baghdad. Mu'tasim left him in prison for 3 years without trial. Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal is in a prison cell for 3 years, no trial. And he said, leave him there until I want him to give in. So he was being a bit democratic at this time. He wanted to, play his cards right. He wanted things to work out in a certain way. So he had a plan. So leave him in there. Now every single person people obviously when they found that Imam Ahmad is in prison, people started to come to visit him. Everyone who visited him, even the scholars said, just give up. Just say it. We've all said it. Just say it. In your heart, you don't have to believe it. Quran gives you that leeway that if somebody forces you to say something of kufr, okay, and they're going to kill you, then you say it, but you don't mean it, and afterwards you make tawbah, and that's it. Allah won't take you to task for it because you were in that situation. Imam Ahmad, he says no. One of his uncles actually came to him as well, and he said, just hide your belief. All the others have done it, and including, now this is what really hurt Imam Ahmad. His uncle said, all the scholars have done it. Now Imam Ahmad didn't know the details. He said to him, even Yahya ibn Ma'in has done it as well. Now Yahya ibn Ma'in, we mentioned earlier, was a very great scholar of hadith. Imam Ahmad became very sad when he heard this. It was Yahya ibn Ma'in. Whereas Yahya ibn Ma'in, Imam Ahmad had taken so many hadith from him. And after Imam Ahmad was released, going quite later on into the story, he stopped speaking to him. And his students said to him that, shall we reject all the hadith of Yahya ibn Ma'in? He said, if you reject the hadith of Yahya ibn Ma'in, whose hadith will you take? No, don't reject his hadith. This is my personal feeling. He didn't harbor any enmity towards him, but he just felt that let down, thinking, even you sort of didn't stand up for this. He was one man standing up on behalf of the whole ummah to safeguard the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Anyhow, Imam Ahmad, he grabbed the hand of, there was a person called Ishaq, his uncle Ishaq. When he said this to him, he grabbed his hand and he took him to the end of the prison cell where they could see out of the window. And he said, oh my uncle, you're telling me to give in. Look at all these people. And when they looked up, you get journalists. This was like news at the time. Because everyone's waiting with a pen and paper. They're waiting to see what I say. And this is going to become news. They're waiting to spread it throughout the world. Because you want them to spread the fact that I also gave in as well. And there's not even one scholar who stood up for the truth. No one at all. Because no way, there is no way I'm going to give in. I'm going to carry on. So his son came to visit him on one occasion. He didn't have shoes. Now what they were trying to do, they were trying to emotionally drain him. Sending his son without any shoes in a pitiful condition. Father, Imam Ahmad said, where are your shoes? He goes, we're so poor by now. We can't afford to eat. I don't have anything to wear. I don't have shoes. And they tried to break him in different ways. Imam Ahmad said, don't worry, be patient. After a few years, what happened? That Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayh, and the guards came, they grabbed him by his beard, and they dragged him to Mu'tasim, and they threw him in front of him. Mu'tasim said, oh Ahmad, I just want one word. Just say one word. That's all I want. I just want you to say that the Quran is a creation, and I'll let you go. Imam Ahmad said, prove it to me. You want me to say one word? You give me proof from the Quran and Sunnah that the Quran is a makhluk, and I'll say it. As soon as he said this, he was beaten so badly he became unconscious. When he gained consciousness again, Mu'tasim said, Ahmad, one word please. Imam Ahmad said, Quran and Sunnah please. They beat him again until he became unconscious. When he gained consciousness again, he said, one word Ahmad, just say it once. He says, give me one hadith, one verse of the Quran. They beat him until he was unconscious and threw him into prison again. Imam Ahmad said, if it was anybody who kept me going, it were the prisoners in the prison. The prisoners, the criminals in the prison, they are the ones who kept me going. How? He says, there were people who were in prison for drinking alcohol. As you know, according to the Islamic law. So there were people who were drunkards, who, according to the criminal law, they were put in jail. Why? Because they had drunk so many times. So the person who would drink, he would come to me and say, oh Imam Ahmad, if I'm patient on these punishments, on alcohol, you're standing up for something much greater. You be patient. You be patient. He says, an adulterer, a person who committed zina multiple times, he would come to me and say that if I am steadfast on zina, you're doing something great for the sake of Allah, remain steadfast. One criminal said to him, Ahmad, don't worry. After the 5th lash, you don't even feel anything. You get so used to it. You get so used to it. Don't worry about it. You know, so, do you know what happened? Do you know these are the same people? Imam Ahmad thought, okay, these are my brothers now. I have to stay with, this is my crew. He started teaching them. He started teaching them. He taught them wudu. He taught them how to pray salah. And now they say every one of these criminals, when they left the prison, they left us scholars. They left us scholars. So Imam Ahmad is now busy. He's teaching them in the prison. One time, again, emotionally, they wanted to sort of blackmail him. He sent him ice cold water. Ice cold water. Here, drink this. It was a very hot day. He hadn't had water for days. Imam Ahmad said, no, you're giving me, what about water for all of the inmates? All of the inmates. The guard took the water and he just threw it on the wall. Said, you know, away with you. So this was Imam Ahmad. Every Friday when Jum'ah would come, Imam Ahmad would wash himself and he would come to the guard and he would plead with him, please let me go for Jum'ah. You know, when we wake up in the morning for Jum'ah, okay, we get ready, we have a bath, we wear nice clothes, we apply itar and we come to the masjid, okay. Have we ever thought about those years of Imam Ahmad in the prison? He would leave his prison cell. No, he wouldn't leave it. He would leave where he was kept and he would go to the gate of the prison. And he says, oh Allah, you asked me to come for Jum'ah. I've done as much as I can do. Allah, you do the rest. Oh Allah, I want to go for Jum'ah. But what kind of creation is this? They're not letting me go. And every Jum'ah he would cry and plead to the guards and they would not listen to him. And he wasn't able to perform Jum'ah for all this period of time. And Mu'tasim, he decided that to humiliate Imam Ahmad. So what he did was, he decided to have a public trial. Rather than speaking to him, let's call him in front of everybody, he'll give in. He'll give in like that, and I'll be able to challenge him. So they call him in public, and in front of everybody, Imam Ahmad asks Mu'tasim that what does Allah call us to? What does Allah call us to? So he said, Allah calls us to the shahada of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Imam Ahmad said, well, your grandfather is the one who narrated this hadith. They were Abbasids from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And he is the one who narrated the hadith. That a Muslim is a person who believes in Allah, believes in the last day, and believes in the messengers. He gives testimony and he believes in all of the prophets of Allah. And I believe in all of this. So why are you treating me in such a bad way? What the discussion you want to have with me is totally irrelevant. You've started this fitna about the Quran is totally irrelevant. It doesn't mention anything in the Hadith. We don't need to delve into this. I am a Muslim. You need to treat me like a Muslim. You're treating me worse than a disbeliever. But they didn't want anything to do with this. So they called a scholar to debate with him, Abdul Rahman ibn Ishaq. He came to debate with him, and he said to him, "What do you say about the Quran? What do you say about the Quran?" Imam Ahmad said to him, "Well, what do you say about the ilm of Allah? What do you say about the ilm of Allah?" So they wanted to try and debate him, and they said, "Look, there's a verse of the Quran, Allahu khaliqu kulli shay. Allah is the creator of everything, and this Quran is one of these things." And Imam Ahmad will respond by saying, "Kullu shay'in halikun illa wajha." No, Quran is part of Allah. Everything will be destroyed, but Quran is part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah doesn't say Allahu khalaqa dhikr. Allah created the dhikr. No, Allahu anzala dhikra. Allah revealed the Quran. So it's not a creation. So like this, he publicly debated with them. Of course, no one could stand a chance with Imam Ahmad. And Imam Ahmad at this time, he told this other scholar who was fighting with him, he said, "Okay, I'm making dua that Allah will show the truth upon our janazah. On my and your janazah, Allah's going to show the world who was on the truth." Now remember this when we come to the janazah, as if we have time. So what happens now? They had 3 debates, public debates. In every single debate, Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayh won. What they did was they beat him publicly in front of everybody to humiliate him. They tried to rip his clothes. Now remember, in the clothes of Imam Ahmad, one thing he had done, he had a blessed hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which he had sewn into his clothes, and he would keep it with him. And they tried to rip that off him, and they couldn't rip it, so they took it off and put it to a side, and they said to him, "We're going to burn you." And then they said, "No, instead we won't burn him." They hung him upside down, they flogged him, they cursed him, they hit his feet. It says, in the Hanbali madhab, in the last rak'ah, okay, you sit with your both feet on one side. He couldn't sit like this because his feet had been flogged so many times. 19 public beatings Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi served. A doctor came to see him, and he said, if an elephant was beaten the way Ahmad Ibn Hanbal was beaten, the elephant would have died by now. The elephant would have died by now. So Imam Ahmad was told, "Ahmad, just give up." Imam Ahmad would say, "Give me proof. Give me proof from the Quran and the Sunnah." And they would say to him, "Just say it once. Just say it." And he refused. On the 25th of Ramadan, Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi, he once awoke, and he was unconscious, and he woke up, and some of his bones were broken as well by this time. A guard came to him and said, "Do you know what happened?" He says, "No." He goes, "Do you know that we've been beating you? We've been cursing you. We've been throwing you all over the place." He says, "Do you know what? I didn't feel a thing. I didn't feel a thing. I think I became unconscious before this actually happened." And it was Ramadan, so the Khalifa sent food and drink for him. That you've not eaten for days, you've kept you in such a condition. Again, they're trying to sort of blackmail him again, and he refused to eat. And they said, "Why are you not eating?" And he said, "It's Ramadan." He said, "But look at you, you're so sick, you're poor, look at your condition. Why are you being an extremist? Why don't you eat?" He says, "No, it's a month of Ramadan, I'm not going to eat." And remember, this fitna wasn't a fitna of 1 or 2 days. It carried on for a long period of time. And there was like no end to it. It just carried on and on and on. Until Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi, when he was punished, he would cry. And every time he would cry, he would say, "Oh Allah, have mercy on Abu Hanifa." Why would he say this? Because now he realized what Abu Hanifa went through in the prison cell. The Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah also was punished, and it actually led to his death. So he used to make, so now he made a dua that, "Oh Allah, show the truth, show the truth." His skin was peeled off on a number of occasions as well. He had to have multiple surgeries, take skin from different parts of his body to replace the skin that had taken. And this continued until he made a very powerful dua that, "Oh Allah, please show the truth." One day, Mu'tasim, he saw a dream, and he called Imam Ahmad, and he wanted to speak to him. What was the dream? Mu'tasim says, "Last night I saw a dream. In the dream a lion came to me. This lion was about to tear me into 2 pieces. And the only thing that stopped this lion was 2 angels. 2 angels stopped this lion from both sides from tearing me into pieces. And then the angels, they grabbed my hand and they brought me to your prison cell. This is in the dream. They brought me to your prison cell, O Imam Ahmad. And they told me to ask you, the angels in front of me asked you about the Quran. That, O Ahmad Ibn Hanbal, this is in the dream. What do you say about the Quran? And you answered by saying, Kalamullahi ghayru makhluq. That the word of Allah is not a creation. So then they asked you, who did you hear this from? And you said you heard it from Abdul Razzaq. Then they say Abdul Razzaq was both on the scene. In my dream. Because I saw Abdul Razzaq. So they asked Abdul Razzaq the same question. What do you say about the Quran? And he said, the Quran is not a makhluk. How do you know? He says, I heard it from my teacher Ma'mar. Mu'tasim says, in my dream, Ma'mar was bought. And Ma'mar was asked this question. What do you say about the Quran? He says, Quran is not makhluk. How do you know? He says, I heard it from Ibn Shihab Zuhri. Ibn Shihab Zuhri was bought. He was asked this question. And then he says, who did you hear it from? He says, I heard it from Urwa ibn Zubair. Urwa ibn Zubair was bought in the dream. And I saw the angels ask Urwa ibn Zubair, what do you say about the Quran? It's not makhluk. How do you know? He says, I heard it from Aisha radiyallahu anha. He says, Aisha was bought. And she was asked, what do you say about the Quran? And she says, Quran is not makhluk. It's a kalam and the word of Allah. How do you know? She says, I heard it from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Mu'tasim is saying, in my dream I saw Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam both on the scene. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was now directly asked by Almighty Allah that what do you say regarding the Quran? He says, Kalamullahi ghayru makhluq. It is not creation. How do you know? It does not stop here. He says, I heard from Jibreel. Jibreel was now bought. He says, I saw Jibreel. Jibreel was asked the same question. What do you say regarding the Quran? He says, I believe it is not makhluk. How do you know? He says, Jibreel said, I saw it in Lawhul Mahfuz. Allah asked Lawhul Mahfuz. The Lawhul Mahfuz, the preserved tablet, was asked that what do you say regarding the Quran? The Lawhul Mahfuz spoke out saying, Kalamullahi ghayru makhluk. How do you know? He says, I know because of Al-Qalam, the pen that wrote. You know, the first creation Allah created was the pen. And He told the pen to write, and the pen wrote everything that's going to happen. Allah asked the pen, what do you say regarding the Quran? The pen spoke and said, Kalamullahi ghayru makhluk. And Allah asked the pen, how do you know, O pen, O Al-Qalam? The pen replied, from you, O Allah. From you, O Allah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to this by saying, from beginning to end, Sadaqa Ahmad. Ahmad spoke the truth. Wa Sadaqa Abdul Razzaq. And Abdul Razzaq spoke the truth. And Ma'mar spoke the truth. And Zuhri spoke the truth. Urwa ibn Zubair spoke the truth. Aisha spoke the truth. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam spoke the truth. Jibreel spoke the truth. Lawhul Mahfuz spoke the truth. Qalam spoke the truth. Wa Sadaqa Allah. And Allah spoke the truth. This is when finally Mu'tasim said, I release you. Allah has shown me and I release you, and He released. And the people said, oh Imam Ahmad, why don't you curse these people? Look what they've done to you. And he said, you know what, I'd rather forgive them. I'd rather forgive them, I don't want to curse them. Anyhow, Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal rahmatullahi went back to teaching. Mu'tasim passed away in the year 227. After this, al-Wathiq became the Khalifa. Wathiq became the Khalifa, and he was also on the fitna. In Iraq, there was a scholar. He found out, now after Mu'tasim passed away, some of the scholars who went into hiding, they came out and they said, we also believe the same as well. So Wathiq knew about one particular scholar who defended the madhab of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He got him crucified and left his body hanging in public, so that people see that anybody else who carries this belief, this is what's going to happen to you. Imam Ahmad went into hiding for 4 years because of this. He almost died out of hunger. And he is then found by Wathiq's troops. But by the time Imam Ahmad is bought, Wathiq dies. Again, same thing as Mamun. Wathiq died. And then came Al-Mutawakkil. Al-Mutawakkil in the year 232, he takes over. He was a righteous person. He was different. He was nothing like the people of the past. He offered Imam Ahmad a lot of money. Imam Ahmad didn't take it. He apologized to Imam Ahmad. And you know what? Imam Ahmad actually saw all this hospitality, and he saw all of these gifts that the Mutawakkil was offering to Imam Ahmad. You know what he says? Imam Ahmad replies by saying, Inni akhafu fitna al-ni'ma akthar min fitna al-mihna. He says, I am more scared and fearful of the fitna of these bounties than I was of the fitna of the trial that I saw. Because when I was during the trial, I was very strongly connected to Allah. I was always praying to Allah. Now in these bounties, I don't want to forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says, I'm more worried about this than I was worried before. And he prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't want anything from the people. And he said, he made a very special dua, in which you and me are also included as well. Amazing how these people, their hearts were so huge and so broad. Today we become so narrow in our minds, so narrow in our thinking, so narrow in everything. We don't want to include anybody. Any one individual who has a difference of opinion on one issue with me, I'll never want to speak to him. We just write them off totally. Look at the heart of Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayh. May Allah give us inspiration from this. You know what he says? He addresses Allah and says, Oh Allah, if you ever decide to accept ransom on behalf of the sinful people of this ummah, then oh Allah, accept my sacrifices on their behalf. Meaning, if you ever want, if you're agreeing that on behalf of the sinful people, if somebody's going to give something as ransom, oh Allah, all my sacrifices, don't give me anything. Allah, just forgive all the sinful people and send them all to Jannah. He compiled the Musnad at this stage, and everyone in the world knew him by this time. Ali ibn al-Madini rahmatullah alayhi. Remember what I said in the beginning? I mentioned to you Ali ibn al-Madini. What did he say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted victory to this ummah through two people. One was Abu Bakr, Yawmur Ridda, and the second was Imam Ahmad on the day of the Mihna. How long do we have to? 36. Okay, we'll round up now inshallah. We just have a couple of things left. I won't be able to mention everything. However, Al-Mutawakkil, he offered support to Imam Ahmad as much as he could until the time came when he became the Imam of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. 50,000 people would attend the gathering of Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbal. I'm just coming to the end, and I'm going to mention the janaza we mentioned, and we'll conclude on this. The janaza, Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi passed away at the age of 77 in the year 241 Hijri. He passed away exactly on the same day Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, which was the 12th of Rabiul Awwal. And 100 people from Banu Hashim, meaning who are all Sayyids, they performed his ghusl, and the whole Muslim world arrived for his janaza. The largest janaza in the history of Islam. I'm talking about then. 1.3 million people came for his janaza. Then. Nowadays it's different. People have traveled, we have media as well, and the news goes by. 1.3 million people. It took 1 week for these 1.3 million people to actually all have a chance to pray janaza. Something very interesting, Ibn al-Jawzi rahmatullah alayhi mentions, speaking about Imam Ahmad, 10,000 non-Muslims accepted Islam just by seeing the janaza of Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi. They were so inspired by this. And you know that other guy? The other guy, Imam Ahmad, said, we'll see our janaza, what happened. So this was the janaza of Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi. When Ahmad Ibn Du'ad passed away, do you know what happened? Nobody buried him. For 9 days his body remained. Nobody touched him, nobody buried him until his body started to give off a stench and a smell. So the Khalifa said, take him away. So they threw his body into a hole without ghusl, without janazah, without kafan. And Ibn al-Jawzi rahmatullah alayh, he mentions that Imam Ahmad he had 3 hairs of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And when he was buried, one was placed on one eye, one was placed on the other eye, and one was placed on the tongue. And the scholars have mentioned that he wanted to meet Allah as a proof to say that he only saw and he spoke of the Sunnah. He defended Imam Ahli Sunnati wal Jama'ah. He was the Imam of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all inspiration. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Inshallah, food will be served after Maghrib Salah. So everybody is requested to please partake of the food before leaving. And next week there's going to be an important program on preparing for Ramadan on Sunday at 4 o'clock inshallah, so people are requested to attend that as well. So after Salah, food will be served upstairs for the brothers. Please partake of the food before leaving. Jazakumullah khair.
أشهد أن محمد